Afternoon, everybody. Thanks ever so much for joining the second bootcamp session of this afternoon, Communications Centre, Stay Connected with Your Clients. Hello again to everybody who was on the previous session and has joined this next one. And again, hello to anybody that has just logged on for this specific session. This session is going to be focused on Communications Centre. We've got 20 minutes, so I'll try and run through as much information as I can in that time. We do have a chat function in operation and also Q&A feature as well. So that's just at the top of your screen. The Q&A is next to the chat. So if you want to send a question in without everybody seeing the question, you can just come directly to myself and we can answer that at the end. That's no problem at all. These sessions are aimed to be interactive, so please do ask questions if you think of anything as we go through anything I'm showing. I haven't got anybody manning the chat box with me, so it will be when I get a chance to look at the Q&A that we'll answer those, so it may be towards the end of the session. This is going to be recorded and is being recorded, so later this week you will get a copy of that recording for you to reference at a later date. So without further ado, I will share my screen and we will have a look at Communications Centre in some more detail. Just share my screen. Perfect. Before I launch into Communications Centre, I just want to spend a couple of minutes in the client record and just highlight a couple of areas that are essential to the setup of Practice Communications Centre. So if I launch into Practice Manager, and let me just load limited company. Now this first rule applies to any client type, so whether it's an individual or a limited company, trust or partnership. Within their contact information, we must of course have an email set up in the system. You might have multiple email addresses set up for a specific client, however. And if that is the case, we must set one of them to be the default email address. That's particularly important when we're using bulk communication functionality or automated messages so that the system knows where to email to. So if we've not got a default email address set, it's not going to know where to send that email and that person would get missed off that recipient list. So that is applicable of client type, all client types, regardless of whether they're individual or limited, for example. The second setting that we must have configured from a client perspective is within relationships. Sorry, if we've got a limited company with multiple directors, we must select one of them to be the default contact. Now that is so when we create a communication and we select our limited companies to email to, if we had a token that said dear first name, for example, it wouldn't know where to point it if we didn't have this main default contact selected. We'll have a look at this when we come into Communications Centre, where it will make a lot more sense. But if we were emailing a limited company and we wanted to address it to one of the directors, in this instance it would say, Dear Ian, the accounts for Imperial UK Limited have now been finalised, for example. So that's the client perspective of ensuring Communications Centre is going to work effectively for us. The other other area that is vital is having an email address set up from our side to ensure we can email out of the system. So within Admin Centre, I go into Firm Details and select my main office. Go to Edit Office. You may have seen we've got outgoing email setting options. In here, this is where we can set up office email addresses. So this might be an information @ it could be a hello @ an accounts @ anything that is a global or global mailbox that you want several members of the team to be able to email out from would be set up at the office level here. It's important to note that they need to be verified. So there are plenty of knowledge base articles available to help you verify them. If it's an Outlook account, you just need to have your Outlook credentials in order to authorise it. And then slightly other settings you'll be interested in is the ability to set an email signature. So this can be a simple copy and paste from your normal Outlook account or Gmail account. And then the main difference between a user and Office mailbox is the ability to manage users. And in here, we can then select which users within the practice we want to give access and permission to be able to email out from that info mailbox. Similarly, we need to do that for each individual user. So if we have a look at Phil, for example, within the user settings, you also have this outgoing email settings option. And in here, this is where you would add this phil.cockrell@taxcalc.com inbox. Again, we would verify it and we can set a mailbox signature. A user email address can only be configured for the permission of one person unless you set it up as an Office email address. So we obviously need to have an email address to send from, and then we must have an email address to send to. So there are absolute essentials for Communication Centre before we even get started. I launch into Communication Centre now. We can see we've got various widgets set up as sort of default in the system. We can't change this view. It is static, but the information that it is showing us is really useful. So the bottom right hand corner, we've got those Office and user email addresses that we've just discussed. I've got a snapshot of what I've got set up and what I haven't, and I can shortcut from here if I want to, rather than navigating through Admin Centre. We'll have a look at what some of these other widgets mean in a little while. The only other one that I want to bring to your attention as a nice sort of a data cleanse is this no email addresses widget here. In my system, I have got 21 clients that are missing an email address. So obviously, if there's no email address assigned to them, we are unable to send an email to them. If I click on that 21, it's going to run a report and show me all of the clients that are missing an email address. From this report, I can click into their client record. I can navigate to contact information. I could add an email address in and then finish and save. And when I come back to run that client report, if I've refreshed it, completed those steps, it would cross Aberdeen Trust off that list. If I come back into Communication Centre, if I'd refresh the page, that would have fallen from 21 to 20. So there's some of our basics for Communication Centre. Sort of got to caveat this at the start. I appreciate there will be people on this call at varying levels of knowledge with regards to Communication Centre. People might be sending emails daily, other people might not yet get started. So apologies if this part hasn't been relevant to you, sorry, but it's good to just have a bit of a refresh. So within Communication Centre, we've got sort of three main purposes or use cases. So we can use Communication Centre to generate automated messages to send the likes of annual accounts, information requests, personal tax information requests, and so forth. Can also do it to help. We can also use it to help us create bulk communications and segment our database, so we can send really targeted messages out. And finally, we can also send messages on an individual client basis too. So we'll have a look at those three areas in a little bit more detail now. I'm going to start with automation. So we can access this from Admin Centre, Applications and Communication Centre, or we can just click on this shortcut here, Automation. Open up the automated message settings screen. We can see that we can set automated messages up for accounts, confirmation statements, corporation tax, self-assessment tax, and VAT. When we talk about automated messages, the system isn't going to automatically send anything for us. We are automatically generating messages here, ready for us to give it that human approval and bulk send on a specified date. This will make more sense as we have a look in the process. So if I say yep to set record requests up for annual accounts, I'd select who I want that record request to come from. I've created an email template, which we'll have a look at in just a moment, and I would point the system towards that template. So I want it to use my request records for accounts template. And then this is the crucial part, when. So we need to instruct the system as to when we want those messages to be generated. So because it's an annual accounts activity, it's going to use the usual year end as the trigger. At the moment, it's set to 0 days. So that means at the usual year end, those messages will be generated. We can toggle this to be, for example, a week before the usual year end. So you've got a week to make any tweaks, make sure the list is correct. And then on usual year end, you could press send. Alternatively, you could increase this to a positive figure. So it's generated 7 days after the usual year end, or perhaps 30 days, depending on what your processes are in the system. So we set that instruction for the system. We've then got the option to activate reminders. So this is saying 40 days is always a bit of a crazy example to give, so we'll update that to 45. If once we've sent that initial record request, we haven't had the records in and we haven't marked the records as received, the system is going to generate another message for us in 45 days. We can point that at a slightly different template. So here I've got a records request accounts reminder template, and in 45 days time after I've sent this initial one, that will be generated in the system and will be pending, ready for me to send. These reminders are deactivated as soon as we set the work item status to be records received. So we can set that manually, or it can be built into our workflow depending on whether we've got workflow or not. It's not critical to have workflow for this to work. That's important to know. So that is one way we can utilise Communication Centre. Let me just close this, sorry. Once those messages have been set, we can see a snapshot in this widget within Communication Summary. So in my system, I have got 6 pending records to be sent. 2 of them are accounts, 2 of them are tax, 1 of them is a confirmation statement. If I click into that 2 for accounts, we can see here that they're in my pending pot. And I've got a initial request that needs to be sent to Church Lane, and a reminder that needs to be sent to Beaumont. If I was happy that both of them were correct, I could press this bulk send button here. If, however, I thought, no, Church Lane are going to ask me something specific, let's head it off at the pass, we could edit that individual email and itemise exactly what it is that we need from Church Lane. If I was happy, I could then press send, and that would send that one individual one out. We do also have the ability to cancel messages. So this is set a reminder for us, but the reminder has been generated because we've missed marking the records as received. I'm doing that safety check. Oh no, we do have Beaumont's records. I can then press cancel. Confirm that, and then I can toggle between pending and sent and cancelled to see what has either been sent or what has been cancelled in the system. And that is what we call message activity, and you can obviously navigate to message activity directly through this panel bar on the left hand side, as opposed to those shortcuts here. So you've got both of those options available. Next use case of Communication Centre is the ability to generate bulk messages and produce email templates. The system comes with some default templates available for you to use. They're there for inspiration. You can obviously create your own. You don't have to use these at all. The one that I do quite like, however, is the payment on account July template that's available in the system. Apologies, use template. This is where we could come in and amend this template to fit your practice. So make sure it sounds like it's coming from you as opposed to coming from TaxCalc. But why I like this example is the ability to insert tokens. So TaxCalc call them tokens. You might be more familiar with them as merge fields or something like that, as we use in Word. But we call them tokens, and they are fields that we can pull through either from the client record, accounts, or tax production modules. So that's where Communication Centre does get really, really powerful. And this example illustrates just that. So we put a token in, asking it to pull through the active tax year and month and the payment on account amount that that client is due to pay. So rather than having to extract that information from tax production and manually input this, we've got tokens that automatically populate for us. So that is really, really useful. We can add attachments, we can link to websites, we can insert images and also format the font as you'd imagine you possibly could. There's no limit on how many templates you have in the system. You can create as many as you wish. To pull this together, we can then create mailing lists. So this is using the data mine functionality and is creating mailing lists for us to send those communications to. Whilst most of our clients may have payment on account to pay, that won't be applicable to everybody. So we don't want to send a blanket email and, some clients go, why have you sent me this? That's not relevant. That's why we want to create mailing lists that are bespoke and only relevant to those it needs to be. We have a look at my payment on accounts July mailing list I've got created. Press edit. Have a look at this data mine. So I've asked the system to run a report and show me all of my clients with payments on account due this year greater than £1. When I run it, it's identified 6 clients that rule applies to. Just go back into here for a moment. We can have a look at the different sort of information we can pull through. So from a tax perspective, we could say, I'm interested in all of my clients that received child benefit last year. I want to see who had UK property last year. So we can create really, really bespoke mailing lists and really segment our database based on the information we hold in TaxCalc already, whether that is the client record or the various modules in the system already. Once I'm happy I've got my mailing list and my email template ready, we then go to send message. And this is how we pull it all together. So I'd select who I want it to come from. I would choose my mailing list, my 2 column, and we're going to choose my payments on accounts. Pull through those 6 that we identified just a moment ago, and they've all got email addresses, so that's going to work just fine. We're then going to search for the template that I'd drafted. So I've got that payment on account July template. And again, that's populated these fields with the subject line and that message. And when I come to preview message, I can then search for a specific client and see that it's working. So, dear Paul, your second payment on account is £9,429. Excuse my dates. I know they're a little bit off. It's just a demo. We'd have it correct if you were using it. But as you can see, we've got the date pulling through, his payment on account and also his UTR. I wanted to check his wife's to check it was different. Go to Penny Parker this time. And her payment account is just £1,920. Can you personalise with branding on the template? So is that with regards to adding your email signature? Absolutely, yep, you can. So I don't know if I've got an email signature set. So just bear with me 1 second. Let me preview again. So yeah, as you can see, I do have an email signature set. It just wasn't in my template. So it can pull through my email signature. And again, if I toggle back to create message, I could include a logo if I wanted to as well, somewhere else within that email. Sorry, that was a rubbish example. If I put it here, it would have worked better. So by insert an image, TaxCalc logo, open. I could have that there as well. Hopefully that answers your question. Is that just copied and pasted from elsewhere? I've gone to, it's like insert image. So not copied and pasted. I'll go to the folder location and then from there search for the image I want to include. The mailbox signature, however, was set up at the admin level for you. Okay. So that's, if we're happy with that, we can press send now and it will go automatically. If not, we can press send later. And again, that would appear in our message activity pending list. And if I close this, we would see all those scheduled messages. The final part I just want to show you is the ability to send individual emails out to specific clients. So if we use Imperial again, from this practice manager screen, I could right click and I could send email. Again, I'm going to choose who to send it from. We can search for a template that we've potentially got set up in the system, or we could just brief type it here. And then I can insert my signature. I could preview that message. And again, if we're happy, press send now or send later. With Communication Centre, the final thing I wanted to show you is the ability within the client record to navigate to communications activity and see a history of all the emails and communications you've sent from within TaxCalc within communications activity. You can filter that by message type and also timings. So if you're only interested in the last 12 months, you could do that, for instance. And you can also preview what you sent to them. What was I going to say? Only if you have a communication centre license can you view communications activity. So if you have got a couple of people in the practice with a communication centre license, it's only those members of staff who would be able to view that communications activity tab. If people are having problems accessing it, it's probably a license issue that you have there. That is Communication Centre sort of in a nutshell. I'm just going to check the chat box to see if there was any other questions that came through. Heidi, you asked, is it possible to set more than one default email for the same client? No, unfortunately, there isn't that functionality at the moment. You must select just one email to be that default email address. And at the moment, Neela, it's not possible to carbon copy anybody in through the Communication Centre. It is just to that sent list. You could send them a copy once it's gone out through Communication Centre, but you can't CC or BCC anybody into that. Renee? No, nothing in the question answer box. So hopefully you found that useful and taken something away with you. If you've got any further questions with regards to Communication Centre, training, licensing, anything like that, please do reach out to your account manager and they'll be able to signpost you and help you with that query. As I mentioned at the beginning, the session has been recorded, so that will be shared with you later this week. All that's left is to say thank you so much for joining today. We are moving on to time in our next session at 3 o'clock. If you're joining that one, I'll see you there. If not, thank you ever so much for joining and have a good rest of your day. Thank you.